Allie O'Brien. I am from New York, which is the land of the Munsee Lenape and Lenni Lenape people. I use she, her pronouns. And I met the host of this podcast through a company called Broadway Weekends during the pandemic when we both took theater classes from opposite sides of the world.
Yeah, so I'm very far away from you. I'm in Australia where I moved recently and haven't checked what lands I'm on. I should find that out. That feels like a good thing to know. I used to be in the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. That's the inner west where I used to live. And now I'm northwest Sydney, so somewhere else. Still in
Well, you
Sydney.
just moved, so.
Yeah, I've moved. Now I live on the lands of my landlord. Um,
Oh
yeah,
my. Yep.
yeah. All right, so we are here to chat about ballet, about body expectations for women, and particularly about the Alexandra Waterbury case. I realized that I just forgot her first name, which is not a great start for me.
Oh my gosh.
Alexandra is such a classic ballerina name, though.
It really is. Like, she sounds like she should be a ballerina just by her name.
Yeah,
Like,
you hear the name and you're
very,
like, join a company instantly.
it's very, very posh name, and
Yeah, well, one of Balanchine's de facto wife was an Alexandra Danilova. He had lots of proper wives, but this one was just de facto because he left his marriage certificate in Russia, so he couldn't divorce his current wife.
well,
Admin,
that's,
am I right?
you know, sometimes it be that way in the,
How to not get divorced. Just hide your marriage certificate.
there you go.
It's so effective.
Save a lot of money on lawyers.
It's true, you can't divorce me because I don't know where the paperwork is.
Oh. Since we're talking about men, that is, yep, that is,
I mean, I have a
that's
delightful husband.
right.
Um,
Yes,
and we always joke
yes.
about sawing everything in half if we got divorced,
There
so
you go.
be equal.
Yep.
And then it doesn't look like such a good idea anymore because what am I going to do with half a computer? Well, two halves of
Yeah.
a computer, but they're different. So like,
And is it the top half just the screen and then the keyboard, or like,
oh, I was just going to saw it straight down the middle.
okay, okay. Well,
Yeah. It just doesn't seem like such a good idea anymore. You're like, I guess we just work it out. Should just stay
yeah,
married.
I feel like that's what you have to do. But yeah, definitely stay married if that's working for you.
Yeah. So let's head off of my relationship into the actual topic.
Okay, excellent.
So you told me that you have some very strong opinions. So let's hear some
I,
very strong opinions.
so, um, basically, what really pisses me off is the lack of accountability,
Mm.
particularly in the dance world. For those who don't know about the case, Alexandra Waterbury's ex boyfriend, Chase Finley, who was a member of the New York City Ballet, She was at the American Ballet School, which is
The
um
theatre school.
the theater school um for NYCB. And he sent photos that were taken of her naked without her consent to another dancer in the company named Amar Ramasar.
And I believe
And
some board members and donors as well.
they're quite possibly,
Or there were
if they're not.
messages. There was a message board with a like a group chat or
It
something with a
was
board
it
them.
was a group chat. So it was
Yeah.
a group chat of several men in New York City Ballet. And Chase sent a photo of Alexandra. Um, Mr. Ramasar sent a message with a photo of his girlfriend, Alexa Maxwell, in a similar position.
Alexa is
Although,
also a classic ballerina name.
and that's
Off
my name,
topic,
so yeah.
but it's a good one.
Which is funny because my name is Alexa and my parents almost named me Alexandra. So that's what Ali is short for.
Okay. So my mum's
Yeah.
Alex, but it's short for Allison. So
Yeah, everyone always thinks it's short for Allison, but it's actually Alexa.
good to know.
Um, so Alexandra sued, both Mr. Finley and, um, Mr. Ramasar, and she lost the case at first, and, but New York City Ballet, did suspend him. However, they brought him right back.
Yeah.
And that Finley, I believe, is still with the company, and Ramasar did leave the company, but he has worked in two shows on Broadway.
Yeah, I was gonna say he didn't leave the company to go for some quiet penance.
No. No, he left the company to do first the revival of Carousel in 2018, I want to say, and then the West Side Story revival
Yeah.
as Bernard, which is where the whole media coverage of this incident took place.
Yeah.
Um, because um, Miss Waterbury asked people to protest this casting
Yeah.
and to um, work on against this casting and convince the producer, who is the now disgraced Scott Rudin, to
Stuff
reconsider this
goes so
cast.
so deep. Like there's so many layers of it.
Exactly, like what are we supposed to do when there are layers and layers and layers and layers of mostly men protecting the men who do these things,
And
because
it
they all do things.
yeah, and it goes so far back. Like I have in this season and in last season learned a lot about George Balanchine and Jerome Robbins. Balanchine was the founding choreographer of the New York City Ballet, and then Robbins was the first resident choreographer they ever brought on. And the both of them have an awful track record of how they treat people. Um, Balanchine is known for such quotes as like, "Stop eating. I want to see collar. I want to see your bones." And "No more babies." I don't remember. "No more babies, Allegra. You're not Puerto Rican."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I think that goes back to men, a lot of men getting involved in part in this industry, to who just view women who dance as figures, not people.
It's also there's some difficulty with because there's so few boys in ballet. Like
Right.
um Chloe Angile in her book Turning Point talks a bit about this weird privilege and discrimination that boys in ballet face. It's this like privilege within the world of ballet, and then at the same time this external bullying. And so
Of course.
they get hurt, and then they found a place where they have power and hurt hurt people.
Right.
Yeah.
And any men who, and I'm sure that men in the ballet world who don't participate in this kind of behavior are treated the same way.
Mm.
They're not seen as, they're seen as weaker or
Yeah.
less than.
Yeah. And it is difficult because it is viewed as quite a feminine thing to do. Um and so you on one level I can understand like trying to reassert masculinity, but I'd really I really think it would be better if the masculinity that they were reasserting was a little bit more like, you know, protecting women kind. That's the kind I like.
Yeah. Yeah, not the extremely toxic masculinity
No, not
that.
the gross kind that means that you send photos to everyone. Don't do that.
Yeah, and I wonder if it has something to do with the outside world seeing anyone in any male in the dance world as more feminine,
Yeah.
more weak,
Yeah.
less masculine than, and
I
like we said, and then that comes into the culture.
yeah. Yeah. I absolutely think that. I also think that um they're less replaceable than the women are. There's very few women in the world of ballet who are like viewed as truly irreplaceable. I don't know if you followed what happened with Catherine Morgan and the Miami City Ballet, but
I
she
didn't.
okay, so she was a former New York City Ballet soloist. Um, she got promoted up very quickly and then got a thyroid condition that made her gain a lot of weight and did all kinds of things to her health. So she left for a good number of years and she started a YouTube channel and now she's like YouTube's favorite ballerina. Um, I'm sure there's a whole generation of dancers coming up who are in part trained by her. I know I love her classes. And she had gotten her health under control and was decided, I think 9 years later, that it was time to go and try and rejoin a company. And she was offered a soloist spot by the Miami City Ballet, and they were talking about the types of roles she would do. Miami City Ballet is another Balanchine based company, so they have a similar rep to New York City Ballet. The artistic director there is actually a woman. So she joins the company, and then is not put in anything. I think she does one show of Slaughter on 10th Avenue, um, or a handful of shows of that. And the artistic director says to her, "I don't know how you can call yourself this big inspiration until you're on stage in pointe shoes looking like a ballerina." And for her, she was basically at her lowest healthy weight because if she lost any more weight, her thyroid condition or Hashimoto's disease would flare up again and she'd lose her hair and be totally out of action. But it was this thing of
Yeah.
like, even someone who has this really big following in the ballet world, um, someone who can't, her biggest problem with teaching private classes is that they all get booked too quickly. and too many people miss out. Like that kind of person.
Yeah,
In
now that I'm looking, I didn't recognize the name, but I recognize her face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that she's viewed as replaceable. That she hasn't been offered a contract and then just put in everything. Oh my gosh, that would be such a good financial decision.
Yeah. I mean, look at what happened since Tyler Peck has taken off.
Oh my gosh.
That girl is literally everywhere now, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's the only way when when you turn 42 and retire, that's the only way to keep a stable career going if you haven't saved every last scrap of money is to figure out where else you fit, and that
Yeah.
name recognition is part of it.
Yeah, and fortunately second careers for dancers are becoming more able to be talked about in the industry. Apparently it used to be that if, you know, like 20 years ago, if you started studying for, I believe the MCAT is what's called, like the medical entrance exam. We do stuff differently here. Um, while you were still in the company, it looked like you had one foot out the door and you weren't committed. Whereas now we're like, oh, you think that between being 42 on the late end and 65 when people retire that you might want a job.
Yeah. People are living longer and longer and longer now.
Yeah.
Like,
And my grandpa tried to retire and that lasted all of like 2 months. He very quickly partially unretired.
my father is 67 and is not retiring anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, there's
You
lots of
need
jobs that
income.
you can do into that later stage of life. It's just that ballet's not one of them.
Exactly. Which is why you need to think, as a dancer, you need to think beyond your career right now.
Yeah.
You need to think, God forbid, any injury could it away from you in at any second,
Yeah.
and you need to be prepared for that.
Yeah. We our new artistic director of the Australian Ballet is actually an American guy, David Hallberg, I want to say, who had what would have been a career-ending injury, but then came out here for rehab because shout out Australian Ballet, we have really good rehab um, out here, and now it's looking like he might be back on stage doing
Which is
occasional roles.
incredible. And that's also a testament. I love that because that's also a testament to how much better, like, the medical industry in general is getting.
Yeah,
Like, we're finding ways to treat things that could never have been treatable before.
yeah, and it
And who
does.
knows, in 20 years we might be.
Oh my gosh, people could be dancing longer, although the way it looks, they'll be dancing shorter because the work keeps getting more intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need a lot more regard for health.
Yeah, and for this
Like,
idea that we should want dancers to have long careers
yeah,
because there there is actually value in age and in experience.
there is. And I think that there are very few cases where we recognize that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not in the world of ballet, but my mum is an artist, and a lot of things are like emerging artists up to 35, and she's like, well, I my mum started like studying art after she'd raised 4 kids. When my youngest sister went to school, my mum went back to uni.
Yeah.
Like that. Not everyone starts young, and yes, like there's the it feels like ballet bodies decay. Like
And that's just I mean, I think that feeds into toxic work culture as a whole.
Mm.
In theater, there are so few roles for women who are older. It's so difficult to raise children in any type of performing industry just because
Yeah.
of the time. And it's one of the few jobs where, yeah, expertise is not valued
Yeah.
and time is not valued. Like, I teach reading and I love working with coworkers who are just a few years from retirement because I can benefit from what they've tried and what's worked and what
Yeah.
hasn't.
Oh, doing Shakespeare plays with like the old guard, the is so valuable of an experience.
Exactly.
These plays with people who they've been doing like I've been doing Shakespeare for a really big portion of my life, and I'm not that old. So I might be a Shakespeare expert among 22-year-olds, but these people have been doing
Right.
Shakespeare since they were 15.
Yeah, I just bow down to everyone who, yeah, I've been, I did my first Shakespeare show 11 years ago,
Mm.
and I have barely scratched the surface. It's just impossible.
Well, what? Are you going to be an expert on 36 different plays?
No, you
But
need the time that it takes to put in that work.
yeah, and you need input from the older generation. There's so much value in the wisdom that actually comes from spending a lifetime doing something.
Yeah, and seeing the changes that come through the times.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really sad that
Because, I
we
mean,
I'm I'm really sad that we don't have like rep companies in the same way that you could just work so hard and do like a play a week. I interrupted you.
which is, I don't remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, but like the challenge that is that I
Yeah.
feel like is just great.
Mm,
And it's great for creativity, it's great for practicing those skills.
yeah. But the reason that those existed was because we understood that it takes time to form artists.
And we have respect. There's
Yeah.
a respect built into the world of particularly Shakespeare,
Yeah.
older works. There's a value there of and a respect for the people doing it as well.
Mm.
Not just a respect for Shakespeare himself, but a respect for the scholars.
Yes, and for the great actors and for the tradition. Yeah.
And
But
there's also a respect for breaking that tradition.
yeah. But it's that sort of thing of you need to understand the tradition so you know,
Exactly.
yeah, you know how to break it properly. Um, so how do you bring that into something like ballet, which you really can't do forever? In the same way that, if someone asked me to do a Shakespeare play one day before I died, I probably would try.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I said, I have my ballet background is I did it for about 6 months in kindergarten and then got kicked out because I have ADHD
Oh
and
no.
was not. And then I found theater and I was much more comfortable there.
Yeah.
But um
We got pulled out of dance because my parents at some point realized that we were going to be tall, um, and that means a lot of awkward growing, and they figured it would probably be better if we didn't do that in front of a mirror in a leotard.
That's a great point
Yeah.
because I can't imagine what that would have done to my self-esteem being shorter and heavier.
Yeah.
Uh, and I gained and lost weight and was had a very unhealthy journey with body image
Mm.
back and forth through school. And I can't imagine what that would have looked like had I been in a more toxic environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been nice to come to ballet as a more formed person. Um,
Absolutely.
so like I have these bad body thoughts, but then I'm able to go like, I'm actually a person with value, who's loved by the people around me and loved by God. So it fundamentally doesn't matter that much if I if my hips are a
Right.
little wide. I
I'm
can't
a
do anything
human
about
being.
it. I'll work on something I can do something about.
And it's like, yeah, but it's so scary when you've grown, if you grow up in a
Mm,
world where starting in kindergarten, like 5 years old, you're taught that this is the ideal
mm,
and you need to get there and be that way and have that type of body.
yeah,
And you don't have the life experience to be like, wait a second, that's not the world that
yeah.
is the real world. And I feel like that must be so disorienting.
Mm. I,
And when a dancer grows up and they're like, wait, this was really toxic.
mm. A massive experience that my sister had. I'm very tall, and my younger sister makes me look short. So she is 6'2".
That is
She
tall.
is substantially tall.
That is a full 13 inches taller than me.
Yeah, she's the same height as my husband, who is a man.
Yeah.
um, so she was very used to hearing, "Oh, you're tall." Like this kind of like, "What am I gonna do with you?" And then she went into a basketball thing, a basketball like I think she was trying out for a team or something, and the coach goes, "Oh, you're so tall." And it's this total change of perspective. It's like this is a good thing, which
Yeah.
if you play basketball.
And
Sorry,
it just,
sure
yeah,
people who have aspirations of playing
I
basketball.
could never, could never be me.
uh, I'm on the
Think-
cusp. I'm on the cusp. I'm just like not don't like it enough to do it.
I don't have the hand-eye coordination.
My dad would always say the reason that he didn't play professional basketball, my dad is 6'6", is that he has small hands and he can't jump and he's generally uncoordinated.
Well,
In
that'll do
that
it.
order.
That'll do it.
He did make a good try, but he played a lot of basketball at university.
I saw they did just change the height requirements for the Rockettes.
Didn't help me though.
Still too tall.
Still, they didn't. They brought it down. They didn't bring it up.
Oh, I thought they brought it up like an inch too. Ah,
No,
that stinks.
no, they brought it down an inch. It's so 5'10.5", I think, is still the cap.
Okay.
Yeah. So if they bring it up another inch and a half, I'll go be a rocket.
There you go. There you go. If they bring it down to 50 and I somehow gain more flexibility in the hip that I have had multiple surgeries on. I want
Yeah.
a
That
rocket.
yeah, I don't want to crush your dreams, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, no. No, but that's okay.
It
That's how I found the theater world and focused more on acting and singing. So,
yeah. And I am able to really actually enjoy dance as a complement to that
yeah,
because
because
it doesn't matter if I'm the skinniest or the most technical. It's like, no, 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 I'm dancing so that when Reno Sweeney or Mary Poppins or one of those like song and dance roles comes along, that I'm ready for that.
yeah, that you can it's just another tool for telling a story.
Yeah, and it's really fun.
It's so much fun and we lose track of that. And I feel like so many times in the dance world in general, we lose sight of the fact that it's just telling a story. It's just
Yeah.
art. It's not brain surgery.
That's so true. That's so
That's what
true.
Patty Mirren says. Like anytime there's a mistake or something, she's like, "I'm an actor, not a brain surgeon.
That I love that. I I really
My
love
mess
that.
ups today won't kill anybody."
Yeah, no one dies. And I think that is important to remember. Like we we shouldn't break people in the process of
No.
doing this because like if I do a mediocre job, no one dies. Not that I should
Right.
want to do a mediocre job, and I don't. I want to do a fantastic job, but also no one's gonna die.
Yeah, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
No one gives a perfect show every single show.
Yeah.
So,
I
and there's just never any reason for cruelty.
yeah. Yeah. I think Misty Copeland said with ballet, if you're perfect, quit because
Yeah,
you've got nowhere to go. So just okay, you did it.
right. Like, do you want a medal? Like,
If you wanted a medal, like you're
there's always something else to learn.
yeah, yeah. And I I think that part of the reason that ballet has left main popular culture is that it's become less focused on storytelling. And
Yeah,
there's there's only so many times that you can see the same extension, and it's always going to be impressive and gorgeous, but it's only going to shock you once.
right. Like, how do we tell new stories?
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like that's why we view ballet as boring in
Mm.
some cases because we know what's going on. That's
Yeah,
why we need
yeah.
more exciting rep, we need new
I love comic ballets.
diversity and
A- and companies that are different. Like I'm looking forward to seeing musical theater ballet companies. Like
why not?
yeah, do Slaughter, do West Side, do because there's the rep exists, um,
It does.
but I just think we don't see it as much.
No, and I mean, why not bring back the Dream Ballet? Why did we ever get rid of that? But
That's a Balanchine invention, actually. Dream ballets
yeah,
and musicals. It often gets attributed to Agnes DeMille because she did it in Oklahoma, but Balanchine did it a couple of years earlier.
interesting.
Yeah. And bring back stupidly impressive tap numbers as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good tap number?
Psychos.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Have you ever seen someone sadly tap dance? Can't happen.
No. No.
Impossible.
Unless you're me doing Wonderful Town when I was so stressed. Tapping on like the thinnest platform ever, like
Oh
on the second
no.
level of the stage, was not a fun time.
Okay, so I now know of someone stressedly tap dancing.
But in rehearsals, it was great.
It was a dream until you saw the set and you were like, oh, I may die.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, an amendment to the if I mess this up, no one dies.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much we've lost in the dance world in terms of like what we're communicating with our expression,
Mm,
what we're supposed to be telling the audience
yeah,
with our story.
yeah.
Like, it's not enough to just have a beautiful body that has the perfect lines and all that. Like, that's great, but if it doesn't have any substance, then I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. I spoke to Phil Chan the other week, and he said something great, which is that we're not making ballet for the czar.
Yeah,
Which I'm like, what? It's so true.
we're not.
Ballet for lots of tiny czars. That's not. You are 1/1 millionth the czar.
No, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Thank you for chatting with me.
Absolutely. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is
Yeah.
I recently read a book that is a perfect depiction. It's fiction
Hmm.
about the ballet world and all of that, and it's called The Ballerinas, and it's
Hmm.
by Rachel. I'm gonna butcher her last name, Coelpke Dale.
Yeah.
But it's such a good story, and it's about three friends in the Paris Ballet School
Yeah.
and who get into the company and the story of what happens to them. And it has a very similar storyline of what happens with how they're treated by men and how they realize that once somebody leaves the ballet world, like what the real world is like.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to offer you a book recommendation in return. Swan Dive by Georgina. It's a whole thing in the book that people pronounce her name wrong, and I don't know how to pronounce it. Georgia Pazkunichi. It's not in front of me. It's not in front of me. But she wrote Swan Dive, which is about her experience at the New York City Ballet, and it is not flattering to the company,
Yeah.
but a great
Yeah.
read.
I feel like once people get out of that company mind frame,
Mm.
how toxic they will realize that that whole culture is.
Yeah, let's build some non-toxic ballet companies. I feel like that's the takeaway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's build some non-toxic ones and get rid of the toxic crap at the top of the other ones and just
Yeah.
burn it with fire and build it back up. Burn it all with fire.
See, I want to go the other way. I want to build some non-toxic ballet companies so that everything so that people in the ballet world see
What it can be.
examples and that those jobs start to exist and then these big companies have to compete with better work environments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can burn it all with fire. We're not advocating arson. Leave your
We're
little
not.
ballet
We're
company
not.
alone.
No, no. We're only advocating the really, really, really toxic
Yeah,
people.
it's metaphorical arson.
Yes, of the structure of the system.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's been great chatting to you.
Thank
Once
you for
again,
having
we're not
me.
doing arson. Um, go out into your day and do some metaphorical arson, I guess.
That's
Build
the
something
takeaway.
non-toxic, metaphorical arson.
That's the takeaway. Don't be toxic. Treat people like people and don't do arson.
Do you want to tell us who you are?
Yeah, I'm Violet. I'm Grammy's sister.
So we have known each other ever since you got me a little teddy bear as a being born present.
I don't remember doing that.
I think Mum did it on your
Checks out.
behalf. Yeah.
Sounds like something I'd do by a mum.
Yeah. I mean, newborns are notoriously bad at organizing presents on their own.
Exactly.
Even slightly older babies, I feel like if Callie was gonna get us a present, who's our 2-year-old niece, it would be like a stick
Or a rock.
or a bug. I got you a cockroach. Oh, thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. If I were to tell you that the alto section of the choir was full, and you either need to sing with the mezzos or the tenors, where would you sing?
It depends.
Yeah.
If the part that I'm singing affects what gender I'm playing, I'd sing with the mezzos and I'd struggle and I'd practice
Yeah.
lots. But otherwise, I'd sing with the tenors.
Yeah. So you're definitely a low alto.
Yes, I think we looked it up, and I'm a contra alto based on my range.
Yeah, which is actually I've learnt very rare. Most women are mezzos or they're sopranos.
Yep.
Yeah, most people can sing above middle C.
Something above middle C. Just much further than that, and I'm struggling.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And you're not a belter, are you?
Not really.
Not really.
In the shower, yeah.
It, I mean, we all
Where
get that kind of belting confidence in the shower. It's
exactly.
about bringing that out of the shower into
Or a road trip, you
or a
know.
road trip. It's true. It's true. You get some belting on road trips. So, what do you think about the roles available in musical theatre?
Um, the short answer is they make me want to cry. Um,
Is the long answer just you crying?
maybe. I guess we'll have to see. No. I think there's very specific reasons that I have to think that that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell me
But
about
they, yeah. So, although most people in musical theatre sing soprano or mezzo, um, I would argue that most people are probably more alto than they think they are.
that?
Or
Okay.
at least they're mezzo. They're not like true sopranos, even though most theatre roles are written for true sopranos and they really emphasize, those
Yeah,
high
there
hat.
aren't a lot of people who can sing notes with sixes next to them.
Yeah, that's not very many.
No.
Um,
And I should
and
clarify, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm a soprano and I'm a belter. So
yeah,
I could
you start.
I could play Hope or
Uh,
Reno. if anyone's casting in Anything Goes.
Can you though?
Yeah, I'm working really hard on my tapping, Violet.
Okay, recently, so might need proof later. But anyway,
Pardon?
might need proof later. Haven't seen your tap recently.
Oh, this is so off topic, but I've started taking some online classes with a group out of the UK, and what's happening in the UK at the moment is essentially a revival of the 2011 Broadway Anything Goes. So I have spent 2 weeks learning that tap choreography from a member of the cast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you actually mean that despite your
No, I think that is one of the coolest, like, shows and dance routines that exist.
Strongly agree.
Extremely difficult. I've done minimal amounts of dance and tap dance, and the confident part of me that belts in the shower and on road trips is like, oh, I would totally do that.
I could totally do.
The part of me is like, yeah, I would probably break something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also
probably break multiple things.
Yeah. Also, a lot of tap classes that you do, this is so off topic, they're very focused on like rhythms and on your feet and all this. This routine is peak cardiovascular, just dying.
Oh yeah, I get like breathless watching it.
Yeah. That's from the trying to belt along, Violet. That's the problem.
No, even when I stay silent and I just watch the tap intermission bit with all the spins and the wavy arms and legs things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. That bit. I'm out of breath watching it. I'm like, that's so hard.
Yeah. So how many what are the alto roles in musical theatre?
Reno. Sort of.
That's a belt. She's a belt.
But that's alto still. Most altos learn to belt.
That's fair.
If we're going contraltos, one of the fates in Hadestown.
One of the fates. Yep.
The one who plays the accordion, I'm pretty sure is a contralto.
Accordion fate. All right. So I'll loan you my accordion.
And then I think it's mezzo and soprano.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, thanks.
Nancy and Oliver, I believe, is an alto.
Yeah, that checks out.
And not a belter for most of what she sings.
Yes.
And
I forgot the obvious one. Eponine?
Eponine, the famous alto.
The one famous one that everyone knows. She's an alto.
Yeah.
And
Anna Plebes.
Yes.
In 6.
Yes.
Yeah. There's 3 voice types for women, and out of the 6 of them, 1 is an alto.
Yes.
To be fair, everyone else is a mezzo belter. There's no one's a lyric soprano.
What's her name? Seymour
definitely gets closer, but
he's closer, yeah.
Yeah.
But you still gotta have the
still gotta belt that whatever high. There's a high belt in there.
Yeah. I don't know any like sometimes the mum or the grandmother.
So you were gonna like really come into your own
when I'm
later.
60.
Yeah. 60-year-old Violet, get ready for it on the musical theatre stages. She'll still be lying to herself about her tap dancing ability, only now she will actually break something.
They don't expect the mums or grandmothers to tap dance. That's way too hard. Their frail limbs.
That's true. I played Lady Harcourt, and I was not
dance there.
This is Harcourt in Anything Goes, and I was not on stage. I had run off in a huff.
Was that Mrs. Harcourt though, or was that just you running off in a half?
The line gets blurry with, runs off in a half, or like Lady Bracknell sweeps indignantly from the room. I try to make all my exits like that.
Yeah.
Which means I need to like start stuff sometimes so that I have something to sweep indignantly
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Yeah. So not a lot of alto roles is what we've established.
No, there's really not a lot. There's a couple in opera, but even then, the bulk really are mezzo roles or soprano roles, or in musical theatre, really, there's
Alto roles that belt.
belters and there's high belters and there's sopranos.
Yeah. Yeah.
The three voice types.
Yeah. I think you mean belters, high belters, and cassette. Like,
Yeah.
just,
Lyric soprano. You've got belters, high belters, and Christine.
yeah.
Christine doesn't need to belt. She needs to do something else entirely.
Yeah.
Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote that show for his girlfriend at the time, for her to play Christine, and everyone was like, "No, you have to have a audition." But he'd written in notes that he was like, "Well, no one can sing that. It's just her."
Yeah. Well, I thought that was going to take a Mozart turn with the For Elise was written for this student of his that
Oh,
he.
not for Elise. I think it might be Queen of the Night. Aria.
Oh, there was something. No, it was piano student.
Oh.
And then, yeah, she didn't want to marry him. He was like, well, I guess I'll make it hard now. And so the beginning is real easy. And then it gets really hard.
No, the other Mozart story is there was an opera singer who was quite pretentious and he didn't like very much. But she had a habit of sticking her chin up when she sang high notes and her chin down when she sang low notes. So he wrote, I believe, the Queen of the Night aria, which goes.
Yeah.
So that her head would bob up and down and she'd look silly.
The sass of Mozart.
Oh, it's something else. It is something else.
Yeah. Yes. So there's not very many roles in musical theatre for women with low vocal ranges, or really for men with low vocal ranges. Like, you think about the number.
No,
of
there's
bass
actually. I'm thinking you've got Hades in Hades Town.
Yeah.
You've got. I know the creature in Frankenstein is a bass.
Yeah.
Audrey 2 in Law Shop
Yeah.
is a bass, although you don't get seen on stage. You're
It's
only
right
doing
with
half
the
of it
big
because
voice. Yeah. So anyone with a lower vocal range than the rest of their gender just gets.
So what we've learnt is people with high voices are better.
No.
Yeah. Cool.
What
That's a
we've
really
learned
good
is people
takeaway from
with
this,
low voices are
this
underrated.
section. Don't have a low voice, or there are no roles.
Yeah.
Alternate title for this section: Remy bullies Violet.
What's changed? Yeah, so but I think that the fact that there's no low roles is a bit silly, especially as musical theatre gets more like integrated into people's musical vocabulary.
Yeah.
As with Spotify and YouTube and like the way
TikTok.
that, and TikTok, and the way that a lot of musicals are getting made into movies or vice versa. People know these musicals and
Yeah.
they know the songs,
You know
but
where there is an alto? Cats.
oh, thanks, I don't care that
What are you
no.
complaining about?
Um,
Yeah.
so Cats is a terrible example, but with a lot of um these musicals as they get made into movies in particular,
Yeah.
um, then they make it to things like people's playlists.
Yeah.
And some playlists, it's fine if you can't sing along. It's fine if you've got, Last Midnight from Into the Woods and it's just impossible because by Sondheim. Um, if it's just something you're listening to. But on the playlists where it's like, your carpool karaoke thing or
Let's all sing along.
your sing along ones, why the hell would you put songs on there that you know that you're not going to be able to sing along to?
Yeah, and
You know
you've
that,
got like you got like a group of people in the car, and it's like you, Julie Andrews, and Elphaba.
yeah, well, okay, maybe we might, put something ridiculous on there, but
Oh yeah,
other ones, if I'm not in the car with some amazing singer, I'm probably not going to play something that is hard to sing along to.
yeah. Some people
Um,
just sing badly.
yeah,
The
yeah,
perils of being a music student.
I know.
Just
But even the ones that you sing badly, you want it to be like
possible.
comical badly, not like I'm trying to sing along and I'm just failing because it's
Yeah.
too hard.
Lena
Or
Lamont. Sorry, I'm just suggesting roles you could play.
oh, okay.
In Singing in the Rain.
I no.
So there's Kathy Selden, who does Good Morning and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
All I Do the whole night through is dream of you.
yeah.
Ba-da-da-da. And then there's Lena Lamont, who's the other girl.
But not Remy.
She sings a great song called What's the
She
Matter with
doesn't
You?
sing it, does she?
Oh, she does in the stage musical. She sings a song. She has a song,
Oh, okay.
which is deliberately off key.
Yeah. Oh, I could probably sing that. Oh no, I couldn't. I can't do.
You're like, I can't do it.
I can't bring myself to do that. No. So yeah, if you think about the fact that most people can't sing any of the like, no one's going to be able to sing the operatic soprano bits. Just cut that out. Very few people will be able to sing contralto bits. Sure, that's
Yeah.
weird. I'm weird. I get it. But lots of people can sing a normal alto or a mezzo part,
Yeah.
and that like
So
is
you want
okay.
more musical theatre written within a normal tessitura?
Yes. Because if I'm in the car and I'm like, oh, guys, musical theatre is so cool. Let's listen to this song. And then you all sing along to it. Sure, there's like the comedy of trying to rap Hamilton as, people who have never rapped before in their life.
Yeah, my introduction to rap was Ed Sheeran.
um, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. I have uh it's not I have something to say and it's not good news. I don't think musical theatre is going the way you want. Because as singers get more technically proficient, songs in revivals get taken up. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So back
we
to the
know that
summary, you just want to cry.
But we know that it can be done, that there's like, you can write a musically interesting, accessible part.
Yeah.
We see, I'm thinking specifically Encanto. None of those parts are ridiculous in the.
Those songs can be sung while you're in labor.
I feel like there's a story that goes with this.
Oh yeah, Stephanie Beatrice recorded her big song as her contractions were beginning.
Okay. Exactly. So, and I would say Louisa is a close-ish to Alto.
Okay,
But doesn't.
so I have a confession to make. I haven't seen
The strong one.
That
The
Muscle.
buff girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Muscle
Not a part,
is an alto.
Yeah.
Ish.
I think she's Alto.
Yeah.
I can sing it, so that's what makes me think that she's Alto.
Yeah. And on the plus side, there's a wealth of tenor parts for you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the encouragement, Rem.
You are more than welcome. Thanks for coming and chatting to me.
You're welcome. Thanks for bullying me for 10 minutes or whatever.
Oh, anytime.
I know.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Paldino. I am an actress. I live in northern New Jersey, and I'm at Remington through Broadway weekends at home.
Amazing. And you are here to chat with me today about Brecht.
Yes.
So, in last episode, we covered one of Balanchine's works with this ballet company that lasted exactly one season, and it was a work with Brecht and Kurt Weill and Lottie Lenya, where there was a sung part of it and a danced part of it. I'm pretty sure it's lost now, but that was I believe that was Brecht and Kurt Weill's last collaboration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's where the Brecht comes into this.
All right, wonderful. I am excited to chat.
Yeah. So you did Brecht in college, I believe?
Yes, my freshman year of college, my very first show that I ever did in college was A Bright Room Called Day, which was not written by Brecht. It was written by Tony Kushner, the playwright of Angels in America. But it's heavily influenced by Brecht. And so in jumping right into this show, I think it was about 2 weeks after I started college, we instantly got cast in the show because it's the first one up. So it's like you crash through the end of the rehearsal process and it goes up around Halloween.
Yeah.
Which is not a long time.
Yeah, I was like, but school starts in February, which makes Halloween very, very far to the end of the year, but I'm in opposite land, so.
That's right. All I had experienced was high school theater, where you have like an entire semester to do a show, and this process was so short and so intense. It was like being flung into a different world. So this show, Tony Kushner was super inspired by Brecht, and so our director sort of gave us a crash course in what Brechtian theater is, how he wanted to distance the audience from being able to like escape into the show. He wanted them to always be aware that they're watching a play and they're not there to emotionally connect with any characters and sort of sit back and relax. They're there to wake up and pay attention to an often political message and leave the theater, ready to change the world, ready to jump in and do things, not so much say, oh, I love that one character, I laughed so hard until I cried, and then you go home and forget it. That was not what he was about. And so Bright Room, our production of it, had all of these elements that constantly reminded the audience that they are watching a show. There's a scene in Bright Room, a character invites the devil into their apartments, The show centers around a group of artists living in 1932 Berlin.
Okay, I can see where the Brecht influence comes in.
Yes. As Hitler is coming to power, and there's a scene where a character invites the devil into their house. The scenes are constantly interrupted by Villa, a woman living in 1980s America during Reagan's term as president.
Mm-hmm.
And she constantly stops the action in 1932 Berlin to talk directly to the audience, something that happens a lot in Brecht's work, often to yell at the audience or to Reagan himself, make connections between what was happening in the 30s to what was happening in the 80s.
Yeah.
I've never seen a show like that. I'd never experienced broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting to experience something like that. At one point, I had to get out of my costume to point a spotlight directly at the actor playing the devil. We had lights and stage equipment sort of inside the world of the play, in addition to the actual stage equipment backstage for the audience to see. It was really fascinating.
That's so cool. So the Brechtian alienation techniques, there's things like sign cards with they're probably bigger than that, like big sign cards with what's going to happen in a scene. Actors sometimes change character, like they'll swap, so they play different characters.
We had, instead of placards, we had projections on the walls of the theater for every...
The new version of placards.
Yes, exactly, the new age.
Yeah. And then later you did do a play by Brecht.
I did, yes. Later in college, a very good friend of mine, he student directed a show. He directed Caucasian Chalk Circle.
Yeah.
And this is outside of the college's main stage productions. And what was cool about this was it was site specific.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of a traveling production where he set up the frame tale in one location, all the actors became the people telling the story, and then it traveled all across campus. It started in, I think, the theater building, and it traveled all the way through the academic center. We stopped in the student lounge to do a couple scenes, and there were people who would come to see the show who were following with us, and then there were completely confused students of other majors thinking, what is going on in H-Wing?
This is why people think theater kids are in a cult. That and our warm-ups.
Doesn't necessarily help the image, I have to say.
No. So, could you give me a brief rundown of what the Caucasian Chalk Circle is about?
Yeah, Caucasian Chalk Circle it's a parable. It tells the story of a peasant girl named Grusha who finds an abandoned child of a wealthy family when they had to flee their home. They left their son, Michael, behind. I think he's like 2 years behind. And she takes care of him, and it's the story of how she is a much better mother than his actual parents.
Yeah.
It comes to a head when the boy's birth mother decides that she wants him back. So she tracks him down, and it ends up in this court scene where the judge has a chalk circle drawn on the floor, and the child sits in the middle. And each woman is instructed to pull the child's arm until either one person wins or he will be hurt. And hey, if everybody gets half, at least you've gotten half. That's an even split. Who thinks is a great judge? And what happens is Grusha refuses to pull on his arm because she doesn't want to hurt Michael, and that is how he decides that.
That's really interesting, because that's really, really similar to an Old Testament story where
yes, King Solomon.
With King Solomon, where these two women are like, this is my baby, and she rolled over and killed her baby in her sleep, and they both say the same thing, and he's like, well, it's all good, we'll just cut the baby in half. And the real mother is like, no, just give her the baby. And he's like, you're the real mom.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's weird that there would be a kind of, the genius morality is assume that one person's just chill with killing a baby.
Exactly. It certainly takes everything to the extreme, and I would hope that that's something that the audience would catch on, as well as,
Yeah.
oh, well, this cannot possibly be our reality. That's something that would never happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was fun is we had one of our college students playing the child
Yeah.
instead of what's often used as a doll or a child actor. We had a full-grown college student just like plop herself down in the circle and I'm ready to pull. It was quite fun.
That is always funny with having when there are child characters in like university theater.
I'm very grateful for that, being 5 feet tall and leading quite young on stage. It's been much of my career. Super grateful for parts like that.
Well, I mean, I think I'd be hilarious playing a child, but mostly if I was, because I'd probably be taller than the people playing my parents, and I just think that would be funny.
Even funnier, yes.
Yeah, that's hilarious. This like 6-foot child lumbering around.
You need to see Spelling Bee. Perfect
Pardon?
show. You need to see Spelling Bee. Perfect show.
So how much do you know about Brecht's background?
I'm so far removed from my college classes. My theater history professor would not be super thrilled with me, but
Okay.
it's boiled back down to the very, very basics.
Yeah. So Brecht started writing in. I'll just do a little quick thing. Brecht started writing in Germany during the 1930s when Hitler was coming to power, which is why you would use Brechtian theatre to talk about the 1930s in Germany. And he, interestingly, is thought of as a theatre person, but a lot of what he wrote we would call musicals, like Throckney Opera, which has some very famous songs like Jack the Knife in it. That's a jazz standard now. He wrote a lot with Kurt Weill. They ended up coming out to America and finding some reasonable, if not massive, success out here. And it's been a staple of theatre programs ever since.
Huh.
Yeah. And he was very anti-Wagner, who was the big creative name in Germany at the time. Wagner wrote the Ring Cycle, this big
Operas, yes.
yeah, this massive
Okay.
4 opera series that you're meant to go, Thursday through Sunday, like a normal person. One of them on its own is 5 hours.
Goodness.
Like what a mammoth effort.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Bright Room is encroaching on 3, and that felt Herculean at the time.
You just have a theatre training program where you do increasingly longer and longer shows until you're doing the Ring Cycle.
It would certainly build your stamina.
Yeah, you start with like 1 act and then
I like that. Work your way up.
yeah. One of the interesting things about Wagner is that the myth that Vikings had horns on their helmet comes from Wagner.
Really?
Because, so 1930s had a big rise in German nationalism, and historic Germanic people did wear horned helmets. So when Wagner writes this great epic about Vikings, they are changed to be more Germanic. So Vikings with horns on their heads comes from the Ring Cycle.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
But Brecht didn't like Wagner because all his theatre was you got too involved.
I can see why. I remember in Chalk Circle, one of the things we did to keep in the Brecht tradition, which I thought was really interesting, was we recorded our lines at parts. At parts, we recorded our lines, and they were played through a speaker as we mimed the actions that went along with the lines.
Okay.
I think it's as distant as you can get.
That's very alienating.
Very much.
Wow. So what do you think about Brechtian alienation? Are you for it? Are you against it? What's the vibe?
I am definitely for it now. when I did Bright Room, I was so green. And as an actor, I had no idea how to attack a play that was not supposed to get the audience on the side of the people in it.
Yeah.
It was so hard to get into the mind of a character that the audience isn't supposed to like. And not in like the, oh, we love to hate the villain way. It was like,
yeah.
you know, when getting attached to the characters wasn't the point,
Yeah.
it was very difficult to figure out how to read the lines.
Yeah, especially since I know that even when you're told that you're playing a villain, often the work that you do is to give this person a true motivation. To be like, I'm not just evil McBad dude. I'm this character who has bad reasons for doing things, but reasons that are all pretty internally consistent. But if you're just meant to play like the devil or evil rich mother who you know, abandons her child and then goes, nah, I actually want it back.
Exactly. I spent so much time trying to rationalize some of the, I guess, stranger moments in the show.
Who did you play?
I played Rosa Malik. She is a KPD officer who often checks in on the main character, Agnes, throughout the show, and eventually is attempting to convince her to leave Germany while she can before Hitler gets any more power and it's too late. And the ending is left open, so we don't know if she succeeds in convincing Agnes to leave. Yeah. It's a featured role. It wasn't super huge, but
3 minutes into college, it's a pretty decent role for you being 3 minutes into college. So
it is, you know, God bless our director, because she cast a lot of freshmen in that show. We were all very, very fortunate, and I had the blessing of not having to be alone in that either. I had other freshmen also in the cast who were acting alongside these incredibly talented upperclassmen, and it created a really fantastic dynamic to learn from.
Yeah.
And having grown through that process, I wish I could revisit that show now. If I ever see the production of Bright Room or of Chalk Circle, I would leap at it, because I feel like I understand more now than I did when I started. And I would love to do that again.
Yeah. My kind of two Brechtian shows I want to do are Mother Courage and Threepenny Opera. I think Catherine or Katerina in Mother Courage would be interesting to play a character who's, you know, full and well-rounded and says nothing. And then I just kind of like the music in Threepenny, so that's just the musical theatre nerd talking.
We all have one, I believe, right there with you.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be shocked if I wasn't a musical theatre nerd.
I would. I would.
Like, what are you doing with your life? And then who are you in Chalk Circle?
I was Grusha. My director put a lot of faith in me, and it was really cool to be trusted with that role. I hope I made him proud. It was a lot of fun.
That's really incredible.
Thank you. I think it was probably the biggest role I had to date, and to be given that vote of confidence was really, really great, especially how green I was in college. He put a lot of faith in me, and I don't take that lightly.
Who are the other favorite playwrights that you've got?
Paula Vogel.
Pardon?
And Paula Vogel, hands down, bar none. I love all of that woman's work so much. Anyone who knows me knows that I talk about Indecent night and day. I would leap at the chance to be near that show, even if I'm selling tickets in the box office. And I really love Amy Herzog, which is another playwright that I learned about in college. We did The Great God Pan while I was there. And we had this fantastic class in college, Contemporary Women Playwrights, where all you learned about was really cutting edge female playwrights who were writing these like challenging, amazing stories. And I found all my favorite playwrights through that class. That was an amazing thing that my college did.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that many like contemporary female playwrights. I mean, I hang out in classical theater a little bit more. I just keep dropping parts of my pen because I'm doing great. But I do remember reading some Sarah Kane, and that
Intense.
I
Intense.
think I got 10 pages into Cleansed, and then I realized that I had a weird pain in my shoulder and it wasn't for me.
We had to read 448 Psychosis for contemporary theater and theory, and it's not an easy read. It's not. Sarah Kane is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not like reading, The Importance of Being Earnest or something.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think I got far enough in to know what was really going on. I just know there were a lot of graphic descriptions of torture. So I was like,
All right.
not on board. Not my vibe.
That's for another time, maybe.
That's for someone else.
Respect the heck out of her. Not for me.
Yeah, I'm glad that there are people who are, trying to do new creative things, and I am going to cheer from another room.
And that's the beauty of theater. There's room for it all.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me.
Thank you for having me. I had such a fabulous time.